All right, ready to dive into another one?
Always. Hit me with it.
This one is all about weight loss. So many people struggle with this, and it can be so tough to sift through all the advice.
Absolutely.
This blog post, Weight Loss Through Diet and Exercise. Your top questions answered.
Okay.
Well, it seems like every day there's a new weight loss trend or a miracle cure.
Right?
Let's cut through the noise and see what this post has to say about making weight loss effective AD sustainable.
Yeah, the amount of information out there is definitely overwhelming. So it's refreshing to see something focused on an evidence-based approach.
Okay, so the first thing that kind of jumps out at me is it immediately pushes back against the idea of the best diet. What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because it's really shifting the focus away from that one-size-fits-all mentality, the best diet myth.
Yeah.
And instead, it's emphasizing this idea of a sustainable dietary pattern.
Right.
Something that you can stick with for the long haul.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're moving past that. Like, all these restrictive fad diets that promise rapid weight loss,
Exactly.
those are impossible to stick with.
Impossible.
Yeah.
And the research backs that up. Focusing on overall dietary patterns, like the Mediterranean diet, for example, tends to be much more effective for long-term weight management than those short-term restrictive diets.
So what is it about these dietary patterns, like the Mediterranean diet, that makes them so effective? What's going on there?
Well, one key factor is that they prioritize whole, unprocessed foods.
Okay.
Think fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean protein sources, and healthy fats.
Right.
This approach naturally reduces your intake of processed foods, sugary drinks, added sugars.
The usual suspects.
Exactly.
Hmm.
All those things are major contributors to weight gain.
So it's not about, like, cutting out entire food groups.
Right.
It's more about shifting the focus towards those nutrient-rich choices.
Precisely. And within those choices, the post actually highlights the importance of protein,
Interesting.
particularly when you're trying to lose weight.
So why is protein so important in that weight loss equation?
Well, there are a couple of key reasons. First, protein helps you feel fuller for longer
Okay.
compared to carbs or fats, which can help manage how many calories you're taking in.
Right.
And it's also super important for preserving lean muscle mass,
Okay.
which is especially important when you're in a calorie deficit.
Gotcha. So it's not just about losing weight, but losing the right kind of weight.
Yes, exactly. We want to shed that fat, not muscle.
And speaking of calorie deficit, the post uses a really helpful analogy to kind of break down this concept.
Oh, I'm curious.
They compare it to a bank account. So if you're spending more money than you're depositing, your account balance is going to go down.
That makes sense.
Right. And in the same way, if you're burning more calories than you're consuming, your body's going to start tapping into those stored energy reserves, which is fat, to make up for that difference.
I love that analogy. That makes it much easier to understand.
It really does.
Okay, but even when we understand the science behind it, it can still be really tough to actually stick to a calorie deficit.
Absolutely.
Do you have any tips from the post on how to stay full and avoid those cravings?
Yeah, that's where fiber comes in.
Okay.
Those high fiber foods, like those whole grains, fruits, and veggies that we talked about,
Right.
they take longer to digest,
Makes sense.
so you feel fuller for longer.
Okay.
And they also help regulate blood sugar levels.
So you don't get those crazy spikes and crashes.
Exactly, which can lead to cravings.
Makes sense. Yeah. So we've talked about a balanced, sustainable diet, but what about the role of exercise in all of this?
Right, so the post acknowledges that exercise is definitely key for weight loss, but it emphasizes that it's not just about burning calories.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
It's more than that.
I can relate to that. Sometimes exercise feels like such a chore,
I know, right?
especially when we're bombarded with all these images of intense workouts and complicated routines.
Yeah, and that's where I think this post gives really good advice. It encourages finding activities that you genuinely enjoy,
I love that.
because that's what will make it sustainable, right?
Absolutely. It needs to be a part of your life, not just like this dreaded obligation.
Exactly. And honestly, anything that gets you moving counts.
So true.
You know, I used to think that exercise had to be this, like, huge production.
Yeah.
Like, I had to go to the gym, spend hours there.
Right.
But then I discovered dancing.
Oh, fun.
It's just, like, so fun.
Good for you.
It's such a great way to get my heart rate up.
Yeah.
And I honestly forget that it's a workout.
That's the best kind.
It is. So it really highlights the fact that there's something out there for everyone.
Absolutely.
Whether it's
Yeah.
dancing, swimming, hiking, taking the stairs instead of the elevator.
Those little things.
It all adds up, right?
It really does.
Finding ways to move your body that you genuinely enjoy, that's key.
I think the enjoyment factor also plays a big part in consistency,
Absolutely.
which is ultimately what's going to lead to those long-term results.
100%. And the post goes on to discuss different types of exercise and their specific benefits for weight loss. So maybe we should dive into those next.
Let's do it. All right, so we're diving into the different types of exercise and those benefits for weight loss. The post highlights three main categories: cardiovascular exercise, strength training, and then HIIT.
High-intensity interval training.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack those a bit. What are the advantages of each one?
So with cardiovascular exercise, things like brisk walking, running, cycling, swimming.
Right, the classics.
Yeah, it's excellent for burning calories and improving your cardiovascular health.
Yeah.
Gets that heart rate up, helps you improve your endurance.
I always feel so good after some cardio.
The best.
But what about strength training? I've heard it's important for weight loss, but I'm not really trying to bulk up.
Yeah, I totally get that. A lot of people, they associate strength training with like getting super big muscles,
Right, yeah.
but it's so much more than that. Strength training helps build lean muscle mass,
Okay.
which is actually crucial for boosting your metabolism.
Oh, interesting.
And a higher metabolism means you're burning more calories even when you're not working out.
So building muscle actually helps you lose weight.
In the long run, yes.
That's a win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, HIIT, those workouts are designed to be pretty challenging.
Yeah, I've heard they're intense.
Intense, but time efficient.
Okay.
It involves these short bursts of really intense exercise, followed by brief recovery periods.
I see.
And this kind of training has been shown to be really effective for burning calories and improving your overall fitness.
I could see that fitting into a busy schedule for sure.
Definitely. Plus, that intensity factor keeps things interesting.
The post also mentioned something called NEAT. I've never heard of that before.
NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Okay, what is that?
So it refers to the calories that you burn through all those activities outside of structured exercise, like walking, fidgeting, doing chores, even just standing instead of sitting.
So all those little things we do throughout the day.
Exactly. All those little movements add up over time. Wow, it's making me rethink my whole approach.
Right.
It's not just about the gym or the diet.
It's about those choices we make all day long.
Yeah, moving more and fueling our bodies with good food.
Exactly. And speaking of making conscious choices,
Yeah.
the post goes into some common weight loss concerns, gives some practical tips for addressing them.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Shall we take a look?
Yeah. You know what? I'm actually really curious about this section on bloating.
Okay.
That's something I struggle with.
Oh, yeah.
It's so frustrating when you're trying to be healthy, but you just feel puffy and uncomfortable.
It's a super common issue, and it's often related more to digestive factors than actual weight gain.
Interesting.
So the post suggests a few different strategies for reducing bloating,
Oh.
starting with identifying your trigger foods.
Right.
Common culprits are things like beans, lentils, cruciferous veggies like broccoli and cabbage, and high FODMPs.
I've heard of FODMPs, but I don't really know what they are.
So FODMAPs are basically a group of short-chain carbohydrates that aren't absorbed well in your small intestine.
Okay.
And this can lead to fermentation in the gut,
Oh.
resulting in gas, bloating, all those digestive discomforts.
Okay, so maybe keeping a food diary could help pinpoint what's causing it.
Exactly. What you eat and how you feel.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What other tips does the post offer?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of eating smaller, more frequent meals.
Okay.
That way you're not overloading your digestive system.
Right.
And also just slowing down, chewing your food thoroughly can actually reduce air swallowing,
Interesting.
which is a common contributor to bloating.
Those are such simple but practical tips.
Right.
I love it.
It's amazing how mindful eating can really make a difference.
Totally. So any other specific concerns the post addresses?
Yeah, it actually talks about weight loss for women over 50,
Oh, okay.
recognizing that hormonal changes and just the natural decline in muscle mass that comes with aging kind of requires a more tailored approach.
So what specific advice does it give for women in that age group?
Well, it really emphasizes strength training
Uh,
to counteract muscle loss, boost that metabolism, and maintain bone density, which are all so important as we age.
I can see how all of those things would be important for maintaining a healthy weight.
Absolutely. And feeling your best no matter your age.
Totally. Any other concerns covered?
You know, it actually touches upon that idea of eating only vegetables for a week for quick weight loss.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
But it quickly dismisses that as unhealthy and unsustainable.
That makes sense, even though veggies are so good for you. Just eating them alone for a whole week?
Right, you'd miss out on key nutrients.
Plus, I feel like that kind of restriction would backfire.
It definitely can. It slows down your metabolism and can even lead to muscle loss.
So, quick fixes aren't the answer.
Nope.
It's all about making those gradual, healthy changes that you can keep up over time.
Exactly. And, the post also reminds us that weight loss isn't always a positive thing.
That's a good point.
It can actually sometimes be a symptom of an underlying health issue or
Mhm.
even emotional distress.
Oh, yeah.
It specifically mentions how emotional abuse can actually contribute to weight loss.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, it's because that chronic stress and anxiety can really disrupt your eating habits.
So weight loss is not always about looks or fitting into a certain size.
Exactly.
It's about our overall well-being.
If you or someone you know is experiencing significant weight loss, especially alongside emotional distress, it's so important to reach out to a healthcare professional.
Right, to get some help.
They can help address those underlying issues and provide the support needed to regain both physical and emotional health.
So it seems like the overall message here is that weight loss is complex, and it's different for everyone.
You got it. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
I think that's so important for people to remember.
It really is. It's about understanding the science, finding what works for you, and really prioritizing both your physical and emotional well-being.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. What are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that it's not about a quick fix.
Right.
It's not about those fad diets. It's
Yeah.
about those gradual, sustainable changes to
Right.
your lifestyle that
Right.
you can stick with long term.
Yeah, the post really hammered that home.
It did.
Focus on those whole, unprocessed foods. Get enough protein. Find enjoyable ways to move your body.
It's all about balance, isn't it?
It is, and it debunked some of those myths.
Oh, yeah, the big ones.
Spot reduction, extreme calorie restriction.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not effective.
Not at all.
And, I think it's also important to remember that weight loss is not just about the number on the scale.
Such a good point.
It's about feeling good in your body, having energy, improving your overall health.
That's about how you feel, right?
It's a journey of self-care,
Absolutely.
not punishment.
No.
This deep dive has really shifted my perspective.
I'm-
It's not about some unattainable ideal. It's about making those choices
Yes.
that support our physical and mental well-being.
Love that. So here's a question for you.
All right.
What small, sustainable changes can you make today
Ooh, good question.
to start moving towards a healthier, happier you?
I like that.
It doesn't have to be anything drastic, even something as simple as swapping sugary drinks for water
Right.
or adding an extra serving of veggies to your meal.
Makes a big difference.
It does. It all adds up.
That's a great question for all of us to think about.
I hope so.
And remember, if you have any specific concerns or questions, reach out to a healthcare professional.
Absolutely.
They can give you that personalized advice.
They can create a plan that works just for you.
That wraps up our deep dive into weight loss through diet and exercise.
Yeah.
Your top questions answered.
I hope you guys learned something.
We hope you enjoyed it. We hope it was helpful.
Definitely.
And don't forget, like and subscribe.
It really helps us out.
Keeps those deep dives coming to your ears
Mhm.
and keeps the podcast free for everybody.
And a huge thank you to Etienne Newman, senior engineer from Calgary and proud soccer dad of 4.
For producing and curating the show.
Yes. Thank you, Etienne.
If you love the deep dive and want to help support our work, you can find a donation link in the show notes.
Every little bit helps us keep bringing these deep dives to you week after week.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring.